Okay. So, Character Art Podcast, Episode 6. It's me, Hazardous, Layna, and the legendary, iconic Nature Boy, um, Playboy, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe we'll get into that. I don't know. He's all sorts of things. He's all things to many different people. Bobo the Seal. How's it going, everybody?
Real good. Thank you for having me.
No, dude, this is great, man. I don't think I've ever talked to you. I mean, I think we've known each other for a while online. I don't know if you guys have met, like, if you've met Troy or Layna before, but yeah, dude.
I talk to them online, from time to time, and I jump in their Twitch channel and say hello.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's funny, I've tried to get Gavin to come work with me like at least 6 or 7 times.
I don't know if the world could handle this, you know? It might be like we meet and like the first time we actually meet in person and our hands touch and like the manliest, strongest handshake imaginable, and just a vortex opens and just, swallows us up. That's it.
The shockwave from that incident just kind of like just reverberates around the planet, and everyone kind of like stops and looks up at the sky.
Yeah, it's like the footage from like Nevada or whatever when they're testing like the A-bomb, and it's like the shack like blows over and like there's trees just sideways and shit. Cool. Well, Bobo, I mean, I can't imagine people don't know who you are. But do you want to give us like your like origin story and like intro and
Sure.
like all the many places you've been?
Sure. Well, first off, I do have an actual name. It's Brian Jones.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea, actually.
Sorry, dude.
Your name comes up as James, and I was like, who's James?
Yeah, man.
My online handles, Bobo the Seal. Most people though just call me Bobo.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm a character artist. I'm currently co-founder and principal artist at OMNOM Workshop, and I've been in the industry since 2000. I kind of started graphics as a teacher. Like I was teaching Photoshop and a little bit of 3D Max, but not much, but mostly Photoshop to students and teachers at a charter school in Texas. And we would play Quake 3 and Age of Empires at night. And I did a skin for Quake 3 for the first time, and I had no idea that people could do art for games, by the way.
Mm-hmm. I
was just looking for tips and tricks to get better at Quake 3 so I can beat the other teachers. And there's a website called Planet Quake that would release like some maps and stuff, but then there was a link to this website called Polycount, and it was full of all these we call them skins back then. No, I don't think people use that term very often anymore.
Unfortunately, no.
But they were replacement textures for the Quake, Quake models and at the time Quake 3, and it just blew me away. For some reason, up until that point, I thought people it was programmers that were just doing zeros and ones, and somehow art came out for video games. And I was like, I cannot believe you can edit these textures and do these textures. So I started, and I got hooked. Like that's all I wanted to do was textures or work in games. So I started doing some skins, and I think the third skin I did. And I got a job at Radica Games doing game art. So it was pretty fun.
Crazy. So what, like, I mean, you've kind of been like all. I mean, not to make you sound like a traveler or like it's like you're a wanderer of the world or anything like that. But I mean, you've kind of been at a lot of different studios, right? Like you're at Iron Lore.
Yep.
Yeah.
So after Radica, I went to Ritual, and after Ritual, I did Ensemble, and then after Ensemble, did Iron Lord, and then after Iron Lord, I did 38, and then Vigil, and then now OMNOM. So yeah, I've been in a few studios.
Wow, man. It's intense.
Honestly, and this is kind of the sad truth of it. I don't think it's as much of a thing as now as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But if you wanted to get a raise or to get in a better position, you would have to hop studios.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's as bad now as it used to be. But they would, once you got into somebody's basic pay bracket, you would just be incrementally raised regardless of your skill level or your abilities, your role within the company. You wouldn't see the amount of change unless you just jump to another studio.
Yeah,
and that's really sad.
Yeah, so you basically get like the 3% or whatever it is, like the cost
Totally.
of living. I think I don't know if it's as common in the industry as general, but I think it's still kind of happening in big industry hubs, like in LA, I think it's that way for sure. I mean, people will kind of hop around, and especially with all the contract places here, I think that's kind of just what people are used to in a way, right? With Blur and stuff like that. Vancouver was that way for sure, but Boston not so much, just because there wasn't a lot of, which you probably know, because I think 38 was there, right?
Right.
But there wasn't. There's even less studios when I was there than when 38 was around. So people kind of stayed there long. And I think that was the first company that I was at where people were in their double digits in a company. You know what I mean? They're there for 10 plus years. That was just wild, right? And usually companies will have this 5-year reward and 10-year reward and stuff like that. And you're just who the fuck stays at a company for 10 years? But but when I get to Boston, it's oh shit, I met a few, So
I felt like Vigil was that way for me. I never wanted to leave Vigil. Vigil was it. Regardless of anything, we were making cool stuff. I felt like I was enough of an impact within the team.
Mm-hmm.
It was just it was a great situation. It's just unfortunate that THQ fell apart.
Yeah, that's a shame. For sure.
That's actually pretty interesting. About straight off the bat, man. I didn't. That's not something I actually kind of realized until I went to until I moved to California, man. I guess I didn't ever expect that kind of approach, man. But once I arrived in the States, all of a sudden there was other studios being hey, so you're here now. What about we offer you this and you come work for us? And it just I didn't really understand that was the way that things worked. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what you said, dude. It's hey, if you come here, you'll get this much more, and we'll give you this, and we'll give you a signing bonus and everything, and it's just whoa, holy shit. And it kind of, at that point, it kind of clicked for me. I was dude, maybe that's why everybody only kind of stays around for a year or two, or gets one project done, and then it's just boom, see you guys, and off to the next one. And
well, at least they get a project done. That was one thing that yes, I hopped studios early on in order to advance my career, but I always made sure that my role within the project was finished.
Mm-hmm.
I've had once I got into being a lead, I started noticing people doing it also. And what would drive me nuts is people who would do it midway through a project, or right when we need the people in the seats, they would do the jump.
Yeah.
And having a commitment to the project has always been pretty strong to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty important, man. Especially for from a bridge burning aspect,
Mm-hmm.
there's I can't think of many or any people that I've worked with that I wouldn't really want to work with again, but leaving before the project definitely kind of sets a tone, unless it's some kind of you have no control over it, right? Like it's a family issue or
totally.
something, right? But like,
and there's those studios that are just hellholes, you know.
Yeah, exactly, right.
It's understandable.
Yeah, but like, if it's par for the course or whatever, and everything's going fine, and then it's like you're bailing, like, right before shit's getting real. You know what I mean? It's like it's
totally.
kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Instant black mark.
Yeah, dude. I just take like a photo of this person with me to every studio I ever go to.
Just like set up a wall of shame, like at your interview. Just like slap that shit on the wall.
Yeah, totally.
It's funny. Very early in my career, I realized how small the industry actually is, and not to try your best not to burn bridges. So when I was at Radica, that's the first company that I worked at that was technically a game company. But what it was is they were making electronic toys. So like the Bass Pro Fisher, the Sprite type of toys that you hold handheld.
Yeah.
And I was a sprite artist doing a 16 by 16, 32 color sprites, which is a pain.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to get into an actual 3D game company, and I was in Dallas, and I interviewed at a company called Third Law, and a company called Rogue Entertainment, and Ritual Entertainment. So those are the three companies I interviewed at, and I took the job at Ritual. But I would say within a month to 3 months of being at Ritual, the people that I interviewed with at those other two companies, the companies went under, and they were now interviewing at Ritual.
Oh yeah.
So like full circle, like now here are these people that I was trying to get work with are now talking to me about getting work at the company I'm at.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy, man. So I mean,
and I would say almost every job I've ever had has been I knew somebody at the company, and I was able to get into at least get conversation going based on the people that I knew. So it's all about connections.
Yeah. So like when you were like teaching like Photoshop and stuff, like what was your like original path before you discover that you can actually make like game art?
Well, so I always wanted to be a comic book artist. That's what all through high school. That's what I wanted to do, and so I pretty much just had comic book art, like drawing, and there was a internship that was offered at this charter school to teach Photoshop. Well, I just pretty much went without knowing Photoshop at all. And what I would do is I went and bought a visual quick start book, and I would teach myself a chapter, and then I would teach that chapter the next day to the people who needed it. And so that's how I really got into graphics and into Photoshop, and I started doing all the web and marketing for this charter school. And so I was going down the path of being a web designer and a graphic artist, doing like brochures and just marketing materials. Luckily, I found out about video games.
Yeah, no kidding. So like, I mean, I guess through like Planet Quake and I mean the really early days of Polycount. I mean, were there any artists that like actually like influenced you? Because I mean, I feel like no offense or not trying to like age you or anything like that, but you're like probably the first game artist that I knew, and I think like a lot of people from around like my time and probably like Troy's time, we're kind of coming up at the same time or whatever, but it's like it's like you and like Kite, right, and probably like Daz or something like that, right, and yeah, so I mean, for me, it's like you're almost like the first one. You know what I mean? And then there were no other game artists before you. So I mean, who would have influenced you like for game art at that time?
Well, Kenneth Scott was the guy for me.
Oh yeah.
You
Totally.
know, he's the guy who did all the textures for Quake 3, and you know he went on to become this. He's a complete badass, you know, art director, and he's always been the guy that I kind of want to emulate. And then honestly, after that, it was just feeding off of people trying to figure this thing out in the forums, just like I was trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
So there's a young guy at the time that really was another big influence on me. He went by Dark Horizon. His name was Jason Sollenbach.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
We actually got to work with each other at Ritual and Ensemble later on, but he started doing some stuff that I was like, wow, this guy's really good, and he had that kind of Kenneth Scott style, like I was trying to incorporate into my stuff. But from other than that, you know, I did have this comic book, you know, past where I was looking at a lot of the comic book artists trying to see how can I get that type of look or that type of feel into game stuff. And then there's also these painters that really started to influence me, like John Mueller, who I later worked with, and you know, Phil Hell and those type of artists. Like I really love the fact that you could see their brush strokes in their work, and so I was like, oh, it's cool if I left this brush stroke. Oh, that looks like a texture. That type of stuff. But yeah, I would say Kenneth Scott would be my biggest influence.
That's cool, man. I mean, do you feel that like your initial interest in like comic books and stuff like that influenced your own like personal work? You know, I mean, I mean, your stuff definitely has like a distinctive style and always has. So, I mean, would you like kind of credit comics as a main influence for that?
Yeah, the comics. I just wanted to draw characters. That's all I did in high school. That's all, you know. That's all I ever did was just draw characters. And then, but when I saw one of my characters running around for the first time, I'm like, oh my gosh, it moves. You know, this is so much more dynamic than a static pose. And so that's the part of it that kind of really hooked me. And so I was, okay, how can I get my comic style and kind of at least the what I feel is dynamic about comic book characters and try to get that to work in 3D. So
that's cool. Yeah, I think I felt the same way the first time I was able to like shoot one of the characters that I made. You know, just having like all these like enemies that you can beat the shit out of. It's kind of cathartic in a way. You know, you spend weeks creating something, then you can just beat it up.
Yeah, it's always cool to finish a character, but for me, whenever it gets implemented into the game, I'll sit there for hours just running around looking at the character in the game, seeing how his animations are working on him, and that's the exciting part for me is seeing that part. I mean, I would love to be an animator, but I've never really got into that. But I love seeing the characters that I work on like in the game and actual functioning in the game.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I think that desire has almost made me more technical in a way, because like more than just like making the stuff, as soon as you can get like a tool from like your TD that is like an auto rigger or like a quick rigger or something like that, it's like if you can figure out how to get that asset and just jam it into like an actor in game and just kind of see it for yourself, like that's like one of my favorite things, it's just kind of like hacking things so that I can look at my work running around. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I've told this people before. I firmly believe that my starting out as a sprite artist once I got into texturing, which I was when I got hired at Ritual, I was only a texture artist. I didn't do any 3D at all. I couldn't even UV at the time. But I feel like the sprite-based stuff allowed me to do per pixel details in textures. So that made me a better texture artist. Then once I started dabbling into 3D or actually doing UVs was a big deal. It made me understand the 3D model a lot better, and I think that made me a better texture artist. Then, based on the fact that I was now becoming a really good texture artist, I understood the things that I wanted to see in my models, which in turn made me a better modeler. And then when I first learned how, I had an animator at Ritual teach me how to rig. Once I learned how to rig and skin my own models up and see how they bent, then that in turn made me a better modeler again. So it's learning these little technical aspects of even if you're not a full-time rigger or a full-time animator, just having the knowledge of how to rig or animate is going to make your models way better.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, man, I would agree with that. I mean, I know a little bit about the process, like after the whole, the character's completed, but I mean, even just knowing like a little bit about rigging like helps you understand like topology more and how things like generally work or what like pain in the ass you're causing for like a TD. If you keep like making mistakes and stuff, so it definitely makes you like valuable.
I've felt like I'm a big mentor to a lot of people throughout my career, and I can't say how often a fresh student out of school will come in and not know the topology and about it. They'll make a model that looks good static, and they'll retopo it without bending in mind at all.
Oh yeah.
And you got, oh look, that joint's not going to work. I mean, it looks fine standing there, but it's not going to bend, or it's going to completely destroy itself. And so, not having that next step knowledge of like how has this bend, or how can you put a rough rig into an arm and just bend it? That's huge.
Yeah, totally.
Do you have any like recommendations or tips for anyone that's listening that is a student or a new graduate as far as what to look out for and what to practice in order to not be so kind of unknowing of those things?
Honestly, and this is another thing that drives me nuts too, is I see people just do rings on limbs and they just ring the model. It's just one circle all the way up the model. I feel like if you actually just follow the natural muscle and bone structure of a character, that the topology is going to work out for you. Like if you've actually modeled it to follow the forearm the way the muscle that goes over the elbow kind of twists, like if you actually have your geo kind of follow that shape, it's going to work out for you. Hard surface areas may need fewer polys than soft areas, that type of stuff. But the biggest thing is just learn how to drag out a few bones and to put a skin modifier on it and just bend it for yourself and see what happens to your geo.
Yeah, I do wonder if that's like almost a flaw in how people are taught, right? Like for me, like rigging, I think I learned more rigging than I did modeling, and I think a lot of it might almost be like overcomplicated in a way because you learn the dragging out bones and just a basic FK setup or whatever, but then like you immediately get into like IK setups and like writing scripts for like constraints and all that, and I think it might almost become like overwhelming to someone who just wants to make art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think people kind of
absolutely.
So I think people might end up getting like turned away from it rather than seeing it as like at least for me, because like for when in my school it wasn't like, okay, you modeled something and now here's kind of like what you'd be handing that off to. Here's like a simple thing to test out if how bad you fucked up kind of thing. It was more like in like a week you're basically like programming stuff, and it's kind of wild.
Well, I mean, I think that's the reason why with all new artists that I ever work with, I typically have them work on armor or weapons. It already has an existing rig, and they're basically just building it. There's already an example character there that they can see how the topology looks, and they're basically doing dress up for it, and they can put it onto the even if we throw it over to Skinner or I can do it, but I can easily put their stuff onto that same rig that already exists, and we can test the stuff out for them. And as you mentioned, like you don't have to get super complex with this. It's as easy as just dragging a couple bones out and throwing a skin modifier on it and just use the envelopes that are there, if at the very least, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean that makes like so much more sense. I mean it's almost what you do in like most productions, right? Where you have like a shared base model, you know, and you're just kind of dressing it up in different ways to make different characters,
Right.
you know. But yeah, man, I wish more people thought like you in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that actually wasn't going through a handful of schools wasn't really talked about all too much because the pipeline is already so thick to create characters. But after listening to you, that kind of makes a lot of sense in order to test how it's actually working when you pass on your model to somebody else. So maybe it's not like doesn't give them a more difficult time. Have to just be like, hey, there's my model, take it over now.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been a good idea to kind of at least test it out before handing it off, or at least understanding how you've built it and if it's proper.
Well, I'm sure that you and Troy have learned a ton since you guys are doing these characters that you're posing. Just doing the posing has probably made you better modelers because you now know like, oh, if I pull this arm way back here, it's going to do this to my mesh, and I need to have this type of loop there, and what have you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's funny. It's hard for me to just say Troy. By the way, just wanted you to know that. I always refer to you as Jon Troy Nickels, no matter what. It could be like, oh, I'm about to watch Jon Troy Nickels on Twitch. I have to say your full name.
That's the first time I've heard that. Everyone calls him Haz or like Hazardous or John.
Hey, did you just hear what Jon Troy Nickels said?
I've always just referred to him as JTN, you know. So like he's a 90s teenage heartthrob, you know, on like Tiger Beat.
Yep.
That's a good point, Jon Troy Nickels.
Nichols, I liked that. You're the S at the end.
Yeah, man. So Bobo, can you like talk much about how you started OMNOM?
Yeah. So Visual Games was going under because of THQ. Lost all their funding, or they just had to go bankrupt. And I'm here in Austin, and my wife is super successful in what she does. She's probably the most successful person I've ever met. She's so awesome. And so me leaving Austin wasn't an option. And basically after Iron Lore, I did do freelance for about a year. And I did it by myself in my house, and I went stir crazy. And so I told myself that if I ever did it again, then that I would totally do a studio or do a group of friends and make sure that I had people that I could interact with every day, have a physical place I could go to, so that it's treated like work and not just something I can go, oh, I feel like sleeping, or oh, that movie's out, or let's go play this video game for a while. It was actually do it as a job. So another character artist at Visual, Michael Tarwater, who I've worked with at Ritual, I worked with him at Iron Lore, and then I pulled him over to Visual. He was in the same boat where he really wanted to stay in Austin, so we decided to start doing contract together. And then we also pulled in one of our interns from Visual to kind of be our first employee. And we had contract work coming in from not Visual, but from Riot and from Blizzard. So two pretty good contracts to get started with.
Those are two awesome things to start with, man, for sure. I think most people when they start freelancing just end up getting a guy that wants to pay them $100 for like a month of work, you know.
Yeah. So that made it a lot easier, and I would say that definitely those two things is what led to us being able to make this a real go at this. We were doing League of Legends and Diablo 3, so
that's great, man.
A couple pretty cool projects to work on, and I'm super thankful to those people for it. And that stuff all came from my connections. I knew Josh Singh. I worked with Josh Singh at Iron Lore and at 30 Studios, and then at Visual. And then for Blizzard, there's the lead character artist, Paul Warzica. I worked with him at Iron Lore, Ensemble. Like we came in pretty much same day at Ensemble together, and really hit it off. And so those connections allowed us to get started, and then we've kind of grown from there. We started out three people, and we're up to 9 people now. And we've been in business, I think, close to 3 years, and I would say we probably worked on close to 25 to 30 projects.
That's great, man.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, I don't know if you listened to the podcast where we had Josh on or not.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that he talked a bunch of shit about you, so you could, get back at him, but I guess not. Yeah, man. I mean, having connections. I mean, especially as a freelancer, has got to pay dividends. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, even like for my short stint, like it led into more work. Like you know a guy, he goes to a different company, he gets you more work at that company. And it's generally just from not being an asshole and being good at what you do.
Yeah, there's and this isn't always the case with people that I meet. But for me, throughout my career, I've always wanted to be a mentor. Like I really love helping people get better at what they do. I want to surround myself with talented people, and I'm not worried. I acknowledge the fact that there are better people than I am, like better artists than I am, and I want to work with those people. The only way I'm ever going to get better myself is if I push myself to be have somebody there that is pushing me every day. Like, oh wow, that guy did that. I've got to do this now. Passing my knowledge to other people allows me to reiterate the things that I've learned, because now I'm having to explain it and show it to other people. And so I would say that I've worked with a lot of people that I've mentored, and those people are now in positions at other studios that can now help me if I'm ever in need. And I've never shied away from that. There's a lot of people that I've heard in the past, like, oh, that guy's too good, don't hire him. He's going to show everybody up. Well, no, get that guy. That guy's going to be awesome, and he's going to make everybody around him better. So
it's kind of a weird way of looking at it, and it's like, that guy could take my job or something like that, right? It's like, well,
you should never be in that position.
It's like, okay, well, doesn't that say more about you than him?
Exactly. Maybe you deserve him to take your job.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I could just jump in and like go back just for a second, I think it's pretty cool that you got those really awesome projects straight away when you started up OMNOM, man. And that's really awesome. I think the first couple of projects that I got when I first started up were from like 3 separate Nigerian princes, and it was just like it was a real dodgy things. It was very slow and very small, and it took a long time to kind of build up. But I think a part of it also, like how you were saying, it's all about connections. I think like the one key thing is that, dude, you were already a fucking badass by the time you started OMNOM. You know what I mean? Like everybody knew who you were, and everybody knew your quality of work. So that whole side of the aspect of who you were as an artist, it's not even like, nobody even needs to talk about that anymore. You know what I mean? Like your history is so built, and it's so thick with badass shit from all these places and projects that you've worked on. It's not even kind of on the table for discussion. It's just like, oh Bobo, yeah, okay, let's like, so we don't even have to discuss the quality of this guy's artwork. We know who he is. We know he's fucking awesome at what he does. It's like, you know what I mean? It's just not even up for discussion anymore.
Just imagining like Josh going to his art director and being like, "Hey man, I know this guy named Bobo the Seal who could like help us out on this project. and the art director's saying, "Who the fuck is Bobo the Seal?" and Josh just slapping the fucking taste out of his mouth. You know, how dare you? How dare you? You're a disgrace to the tablet. You know.
Well, I appreciate appreciate that. I do feel a lot of people don't know me now. I would say, just because I haven't really been posting much on the forums as much as I used to, which is the one thing I probably regret. But it's hard for me to work on things that don't go towards things. Like I'd much rather. I'm at a point where if I want to be doing work, it's going to be for something that's going to go into a project. It's hard for me to just kind of sit there and have stuff just sitting on my hard drive. It's so I would say that I'm failing in that, and this one thing I want to work on is do some more personal projects and get that stuff out there more.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I know what you mean, man. I think that's a symptom of getting old, dude.
What? You just call me old?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like because I mean I'm 35 now, and I'm starting to feel exactly that thing, man. I'm like, you know what? Here's an art competition. This sounds badass, and there's a part of me that is just like, oh fuck, I need to. That would be really cool to do. But then when I take a moment to process it, I'm like, but that's just going to be another thing that it's just for nothing. And I kind of sit there going, fuck, I would rather any day like try to work on something that is going to be used to kind of further something else that I'm actually doing, or that or is already kind of bubbling around in my mind that could be part of a larger thing.
Well, you found something perfect. These statues and stuff that you're doing now, like that, there is an end product, and
Yep.
that I just ordered a 3D printer, so I'm hoping that will kind of spark me doing more stuff. So.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, absolutely.
Dude, I'm a fucking day one buyer of a Bobo figurine. You know. Sure,
Well,
just
everybody
saying.
wants me to print out the tank that I made.
Yeah, well, that's I mean, that's what I was referring to. You know.
Have that sitting on your desk.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't divulge this information, but so Xavier, who's on my team, Swizzle, we've been making like these custom emoticons, you know, for our IM, and your tank is like one of our emoticons. So we just like a few key presses, and you just get like a tank for everyone to see. Yeah. Like hopefully there's no like end user agreement that I'm breaking with this tank, but
No. that was a freebie for Polygon. So
yeah.
Whatever anybody does with it, that's cool.
Yeah, but yeah, man, I feel like I think I'm on the same page as you guys with like making something that not goes nowhere, but it's just another character, you know. And I mean, I'm in this like poly count competition now. I think it's just more because for the first time in a while, it's a poly count competition that I'm actually interested in, you know.
Yeah, totally.
So it's kind of like trying to, I don't know, put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. But yeah, man, at the end of the day, like I have the feeling of, I can make characters, and I mean I could always be better at doing that, and there's things to learn. But when you just make one, it's like, yep, now it's on the internet, and that's basically it. It's kind of getting old in a way, and I've been looking at like scripting and stuff, like trying to see how feasible it is to make like indie games or something like that, right? And like looking at like Unreal blueprints and messing around with that, just as kind of like this other skill set to try and make something where I can make characters that are like useful for something else, you know what I mean? Versus just like a portfolio piece. Like it's just not like as motivating as it used to be.
Well, I think the contests are. I mean, you're still doing it for something. I really, I would love to do contests. All I ever do is start a thread and then fade away.
Yeah.
I always have like instant ideas. I'm like, oh, I got this brilliant idea and I want to do it, and then life like doesn't allow me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, totally.
it's sometimes for me like just getting the idea out there. I'm like, okay, they know what I was thinking. I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. What's weird is that usually you still win too, you know? With just an idea, and you like drop it down. Like people don't even realize that you never finished. Just like, yeah, that was awesome. Remember when Bobo did that? It's like you and Kite, you know? Like I think half the things.
Oh, Kite's awesome, man.
Yeah, like half the things that people have seen, maybe more than half. Like I think the majority of things that people have seen from Kite are his work in progress, you know?
Yeah.
And all of them are like fucking astronomically better than like most people, you know? It's like so fucking good. But then you never see him finish. And now he's just like the fucking Ben Kenobi of character artists. Like I haven't he's just gone, you know?
Yeah, totally.
He's gone. I don't know.
Honestly, I would say that the stuff that even though the work in progress stuff that I do end up posting, it's not wasted work, because a lot of people keep always say like, why don't you finish this? Why don't you finish that? Well, unknown to other people is that thing probably did get finished and just morphed into something else that I did for a project.
Yeah.
I completely admit that I'm a cannibal of my own work.
Mm-hmm.
If I build an arm that I really like, or if I build a hand or a head or something, rather than rebuilding those things on future characters, I just grab those things and use those as a start point.
Yeah.
I was watching. I tell this to people, but I was watching a Food Network show or something talking about this place in, I think, Chicago, where they have this bread, this giant deal of bread that's being kneaded all the time, and the guy was saying that they just keep adding dough to it, and then they take out what they need, and he would like to think that there's at least a molecule of the very first piece of bread that they've ever made in every single piece of bread that they make now.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I may have a vertice from my very first model in every character that I make now. So
yeah, so every character that Riot receives from you just has a little bit of the penis tank in it.
It may have a little bit of it.
Yeah, they're not totally sure what they just saw, but they can figure it out.
You know that now everybody is just going to run away from this stream. All your clients are just like, dude, fucking what? They're like taking the actual penis tank and they're like taking some polygons or some loops around like the shaft, and they've kind of gone, hey, wait a minute, look, this actually matches up, and they're all like in Photoshop like stretching things out. Oh man, it's happened.
We've at studios, artists like to play with each other, and there's time. Well,
that sounds pretty good.
It sounds awesome. Huh? There's times where somebody will open up a model and it may have additional anatomy.
Yeah.
Don't walk away from your desk. But you've got to be very careful about that.
You gotta lock your stuff up, man.
There's actually, I mentioned I used to be a sprite artist. I like to make desktop icons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I released any, but most probably when I was working in studios, I would make icons for people's desktops that would be like 3D Max and things like that. But I made a penis icon, and my favorite thing to do would be run around people's machines while they're gone and replace their like Macs with a penis icon.
Nice.
Oh man, that's genius.
Yeah, that's a wow. I don't even know what to say. It's like a genius move.
Dude, yeah, that's some next level shit. My goodness.
Yeah. Wow, man. So
where do you go from there?
Yeah, so I don't even know what to do. My mind's wandering. It's like, fuck. How can I do this? How can I innovate? You know what I mean? Like, how can I?
I think I might actually have it released online. I think I posted it in a Polycount thread at one point.
Nice. I gotta set up. Gotta get like a script set up for the, like my company. So when we just like do the massive download of tools or whatever, it just replaces everyone's Maya icon with a big old dong.
Oh my gosh! So speaking of Josh Singh, I can't believe I'm going to tell this.
Oh, here we go. Here we go, Josh.
So he would leave his machine unlocked. All right, and we were at Iron Lore, and one more. I always get to studio very early. I like to work. Especially when I became more in the leadership roles, I would find that when other people were there, I was able to do less work because I was constantly running from computer to computer or doing more managerial stuff. So I would always come in early and put in at least 4 hours before other people come in. So I came in early one day, and our player character, I built a penis and rigged it to our player character. Okay. So it is like the shaft was the spine of the character, and the testicles were the legs, and I replaced his player character on his game with this character.
That's again, man. Like in all ways, you're so much better than me. You know. Dude,
it was very funny. It was fun.
Mind blown. I just. Wow.
Yeah, I can't believe I told that.
Now everyone knows.
Yeah, the funny thing is that there was a skill that made your character grow, and that was that was the best.
Wow.
You've just inspired like this whole like throng of game developers to go into work early
I do not recommend
replace all the characters in the game with like growing penises.
Oh man, I think
like do that.
Yeah, dude. I mean these days. I mean
HR was different back then.
Yeah, man. These days, I feel like these days I think even if like you did it with a guy you've known for like fucking years and years and years. If like somebody walks by and sees that and gets offended, it's like, oh Jesus, you know, it's gonna be like a fucking Polygon article just waiting to be written. Fuck that.
It would be horrible.
Yeah.
But I enjoy doing those type of things. Like at Vigil, we were working on 40K MMO, and every April Fool's Day I would do something a little different. So I went in and replaced all the heads of every character with giant-sized heads. and actually submitted it to the build, so everybody got it in the entire company.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude.
There was a guy named Ted Bergeron that didn't like. He loves 40K. He's really into that type of stuff, dark and demented, and he hated like happy stuff. So I replaced his with his Space Marine with the pink. Flowery Space Marine.
Oh man, that's great.
Man, this is some like master level trolling, you know. So I don't even know what to say other than just awe at the skill, you know.
At what point do you feel like all this sort of trolling and fun within companies changed? Like, why is it so different now?
Well, I did that at Visual, so that was like 6-7 years ago. So I don't know how it'd go over now, but
yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I think like it's in like the past few years, like things have gotten worse in that way. I mean, even when I was working at Irrational, my boss and I would have like the same kind of, you know, like fucking with each other, right? And I remember like leaving like a giant ASCII dick from like on all three of his monitors, you know, like when he gets up and I just like opened Photoshop and made this like whatever, man, like 5,000 by 1,000 image and just drew like a giant dick. I mean that was fine, you know, but I mean even then I think it might be, I don't know. I guess I don't really have an answer other than like complaining about people being super sensitive lately, but I don't know.
I mean, you are in a professional setting, but at the end of the day, you're making games.
Yeah.
And games are fun, and I've always felt blessed in the fact that I'm working in an industry that I'm getting paid to do something that I would do for free, and it's fun. So having a good time with people, I think, is cool. But at the same time, you do have to be, you know, mindful of people's feelings. So as long as it's good, clean fun, then it's cool.
Yeah, totally. Though I've based on my
it has to be like a good, clean, like washed and scrubbed and like polished and
well,
that kind of.
Have you seen Bobo's tank? I mean, the glisten on that is like, it's not only washed, it's like the antibacterial soap lathered. You know what I mean? Damn.
I actually made that tank after hours at Visual, and my art director came in while I was making it, and he just shook his head and walked out.
Yeah. No questions asked. Just awkward eye contact, you know.
Oh.
But you know, it's also, hopefully you know people before you do stuff. You don't like day one, replace their icons with penises.
Yeah. No, man, you gotta work up to that.
You gotta work up to it.
Yeah. Just being dragged into the HR office, just yelling, "Don't you know who I am? I'm Bobo the fucking seal."
No. That has never worked once in my life.
Oh, so you tried it? You tried yelling at HR?
Wow. That's crazy, man. So, we got like a few, when I tweeted like questions that you're gonna be with us. Actually I got questions, and I don't really know how to work them into any sweet segue or anything. So I think I'm just gonna ask you. Yeah. So I guess it's for everybody. But if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing? Would you be like a comic artist? Would you have kept on that path, or?
Honestly, I when I was high school doing this stuff, I would say yeah. But now that I look back, like I was horrible. I was really bad. So I don't think I would be a comic book artist. I do think that I would still be doing web graphics probably, or marketing materials. I still kind of dig that type of stuff. Like anytime we have an opportunity to make logos or work on the look of our site or something, I enjoy doing that stuff. So
that's cool.
Now in my later years, I really would like to do some woodworking.
Oh yeah.
I've never done it in my life, but I put woodworking videos on, and I just love watching just the making of stuff.
Yeah, dude.
I just think it's cool.
Is this like part of a like almost like a wild man fantasy? Like just grow like a beard, move to a cabin in the middle of nowhere. You
should see my beard. Here, let me turn on video. Let me turn on video for a second here. I mean, this doesn't make good. Look at this thing.
Holy shit, dude.
Oh, that's good.
This is the most epic beard I've had ever.
This is man, that's like a woodworking beard if I've ever seen one.
We have a Biggest Loser competition going on here in the office, and I decided to grow it until the end of the competition. So hopefully I can shave off at least 5 pounds.
Crazy. Do you think? So do you think there's any like parallel between your obsession with a certain piece of anatomy and woodworking?
I have no obsession with that piece of anatomy.
I see what you did there.
No, I actually just am in awe of craftsmen. Like I think that craftsmen are people who can make stuff with their hands are just awesome. I'll put on those videos about people just making gears or doing metal work or whatever. And it's something that I would love to do, but I've never tried to do. Actually interesting. Craftsmen, like we've tried to incorporate craftsman type of mentality into OMNOM. Like we don't have interns, we have apprentice program, like apprenticeships. I've always loved the idea of somebody. You're not just going to be doing grunt work for us. Like I want to teach you a trade. I want you to grow within our company. That type of stuff. So.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's awesome. Actually, I haven't heard that quite often. It's usually just not apprenticeships, but internships and kind of wary of those sorts of things. So that's really neat that you take people on board and you really want to teach and for them to grow and learn. And
Mm-hmm.
since being with Troy, it's been the same thing. My head's just exploding with all these things and learning and growing and being really enthusiastic about it. And it's really exciting rather than, the typical I'm going to come in and just be looking at UVs all day, which is, that's fine and all, but you really want to grow. You want to know like how to do this thing. You want to learn so bad.
Totally.
It's just
Mm-hmm.
hard to find people that really are interested in growing a little piece of meat into a big, awesome, artist.
Yeah,
It's
so
tough.
we're on our third apprentice, and we hired our first two. So
Nice.
it's worked out really well so far.
I think it's like probably a better track record than most schools,
Yeah, totally, dude. And the funny thing is that it's different. I mean, it's a much more, well, I think because I imagine myself in that position, but I think it's a much more kind of rewarding and empowering position to be in, because you're given like like some level of responsibility, man, and it's just like, hey, we trust you to do this thing. We're not just going to bring you in to make barrels and crates for the next like year so that you can understand what working on video games is all about. It's more like, hey man, we know that you are trying to become like a game artist, and this is everything that encompasses being a game artist. It's like, we're going to make you do this, we're going to make you build some weapons and maybe do some VFX, maybe do some unwrapping, maybe do some sculpting, maybe do like the whole lot. And it's just like, I think it's cool if somebody gets to be kind of put into that position, and even when they're like super young and they're given some responsibility, I think that you get better results, man. You know what I mean?
Well,
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying. I think you can get more out of the person by extending them an olive branch, man, and being like, hey, you know what? This is the deal. You're going to be doing stuff that we're doing. Like it's the same thing, but we'll just train you and train you and train you and pass on all of our knowledge to you so that you can just level up that much faster.
Right. What we do is the task that they do is retopo, UV, and bake. So we'll do the sculpts, and then pass it on to our apprentice to do the and we teach them how to do the retopo, and we have examples of stuff we've done, and they learn topology by retopping our work. And then they learn the UVs, and they learn how to do our bakes. And then that's their primary task every day, like when those things are available. But between those tasks, then we have weapons. I feel like weapons are a small, like compact piece of art that somebody can learn on. And so they'll work on weapons until another retopo comes up. And then once they get good at doing their weapons, then we have armor that we let them work on. And then hopefully they get to that point where, oh, they're doing really good on armor, let's try doing a full character now. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's awesome, and it's really inspiring. And I can imagine for whoever has gotten brought on the team feels the same, to be kind of given the opportunity. I know there's been times where Troy has a project and he will pass it on to me, and all I feel is, man, no way, really? Seriously? So you kind of put that much more love and attention to what you're doing on that project because you feel like you've been given this opportunity to really give it your all. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't really happen too often. And at the same time, I feel like it gives the mentor or the company the opportunity to see who can actually make or break it, Mm-hmm. It's hard to kind of weed out the people who actually want to do it when you don't really give them enough responsibility to show the true colors.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the value of having a spread in like your team too, like versus just like having the team of rock stars, like where everyone's this like seasoned veteran and everyone's awesome, you know. If you have like a junior on the team or like mid-level or whatever, like everybody has an opportunity for growth, you know. So, you know, the more junior person or even like, you know, an associate can, you know, learn from like the levels above them, and you know, people in the middle can like mentor like the, you know, like associate and stuff like that, right? So it's kind of like the same deal where rather than just having this like fucking, you know, the, you know, Led Zeppelin of like character artists or whatever. It's like you have a spread, and it's not like, yeah, give the like fucking shitty work to like the new person. It's like, you know, they kind of want to do it, you know. I mean, you kind of want to like learn this stuff, like how to do it properly, and you can be given the opportunity to work on like major characters and stuff too in some way, right? So you have like more involvement, more to learn, and you know, you kind of got like the whole fresh mentality too that you can bring to the table.
I mean, that's not to say that, you know, someone straight out of school gets this opportunity and they're like, yes, I'm going to be doing all the main characters, what's up?
Mhm.
It's more of like, I get to take little baby steps and understand how these people I look up to get the job done and slowly grow over time and get molded into something that's really versatile and helpful on the team. And then those people grow to teach other people, and you get this really nice wave of artistic ability that really shines rather than, I feel like these days lots of things are kind of getting lost and the teaching's a bit all over the place, and lots of younger artists, you know, such as myself, weren't really taught all of the things that we should have known, and it's a bit shaky, you know what I mean? So taking people on, I think, is fucking awesome.
Well, what's really cool also is these people are trying to get into the industry, and what's cool about working for us and in that role is they're not just working on one project. They're going, you know, at 6 months of doing an apprenticeship here, they may now have 6 credits, you know, 7 credits in different games, but because they've got to, we work on a lot of, we work on like at least 4 or 5 projects at any given time. So
yeah, that's awesome.
No, totally.
I mean, I think I mentioned it to Gavin on Facebook, but kind of a dream that I've always had, and we were really considering it with the future of OMNOM, is I've always wanted to have what it used to call Bobo Ranch, but now it's OMNOM Ranch. But I've always had these young artists that basically live up at work. They just want to learn how to do this stuff. They that's all they're focused on. So I've kind of thought, what if we had a bunkhouse and had a unlike traditional school, we have a program where they come and we teach them for 3 months, just hardcore, like you're living at where you work and you're focused on learning for 3 months, and then you'll have fold it into our freelance studio and do 3 months of actual experience working on games. It would help us, and it would totally help them. You know, like, and you know, I think it'd be pretty cool.
I think that's awesome. I think that falls pretty closely to what I experienced. And what I talked about in the last podcast was when I was 15, I went to this camp. It was a three-week long overnight camp that was literally from 8 a.m. to like 5 or 6, learning how to do 3D, different programs, how to make it work, and at the end you put it into an engine. And I haven't seen anything like it for a long time, and putting that together with potentially having a job or being a part of a company or a team of artists seems great, because not only do you get to kind of nurture them and help them grow, you get to know these people on a completely different level than an application basis and portfolio basis.
Right.
And you grow together and the team is kind of stronger in that way. So that idea that's really cool.
Yeah, have your own compound, you know,
Yeah.
just like a yard with like barbed wire and like landmines and stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, man, you can leave anytime you want, you know.
If you can
20,
make it.
Yeah, like 25 people to like a really small room, and just some kind of like bunk beds with, you know, very little. No, this is going pretty dark, man. I'll stop.
It took something beautiful and twisted it.
Yeah. It's and just like a lot of universities around here, it goes from this traditional dorm living to like the next Saw movie in like 5 minutes.
I mean, speaking of education, I just feel like real world experience trumps a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned my wife. My wife is the most successful person I've ever known, and she didn't finish college. She was able to get a job and just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
I did some school, but I didn't finish college. Most of my stuff is just what I learned on the job. Learn doing it, and figuring out ways to get people, if they're very clear on what their goals are and what they want to do, getting them to that point where they're actually doing the stuff as fast as they can is going to be more helpful than reading, being stuck in class for like years. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Not to say that formal education is bad or anything.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I have to go over this again, but it's not like it's not like formal education is bad. It's just a very backward system for this industry that we have.
Yeah, I think school is really good for people who aren't sure about what they want to do with their life.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great opportunity for them to become social, learn multiple different things, and then kind of drift into the direction that they discover.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was very clear. I wanted to make games,
mm-hmm.
and so like, how do I skip the middleman and just get to making games?
Yeah, totally. So another question that we got was if the four of us could collab on the remake of a game together, what would it be and why? And I don't know if we can get the four of us on the same page. I think you three might be like looking at Final Fantasy III, and I'm looking at like
No way, actually.
No? All right.
Total opposite. I would go, just to start the answer. I really like horror games, like Fatal Frame, Silent Hills kind of thing. Really grungy, creepy atmosphere because it's super rare in video games.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as I like RPGs, if there could be like a creepy, freaky RPG, maybe that'd be a good combo.
I don't know. I don't know, man. That's a tough question.
Yeah. Man.
I mean, for Beyond Good and Evil is one of the games that I've always wanted to see redone.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that one for me.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think like a lot of the games that I guess I would say like got me into making games or game art or whatever are being remade, right? Like Doom is coming out in like months, right? And there's like a new XCOM that just came out, and like Wolfenstein is doing great and stuff. So I don't know, man. I think I would gladly follow Layna on the horror direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually had a conversation with a dude on my stream the other night about the really old strategic simulations incorporated Dungeons and Dragons like gold box video games that I played when I was a kid.
Dude, actually,
I kind of like got a conversation going. I was like, dude, fuck yeah, that shit was like all little pixelated sprites and stuff, and I was thinking to myself, dude, fuck yeah, how come nobody's remade that shit, man? And I was just kind of thinking to myself, that would be fucking rad, man, like remake that old stuff. So I think that. I mean, that to be honest, that kind of ties in with what you're saying, because there was a whole like arm of D&D that was all about like creepy kind of gothic stuff, and I think it was Ravenloft or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember the.
No,
I can't remember the segment. But yeah, man, that stuff would be cool to remake, I reckon.
Yeah, dude. I'm I'm gonna like turn my back on Layna immediately.
Don't worry about
Dude,
it.
Dungeon Master. That's what I would remake. Like the one, like
Yeah.
the one that's like Legend of Grimrock, though. Like
Oh yeah,
the first person like RPG where you like get the
yeah.
party and like you're walking through like the dungeon and shit. Something like that, man. Like I mean, I know that like, they have like Legend of Grimrock now, but fuck, dude, I've always loved those games. You know, and like there's only like a few of them, right? Like that. There's like Eye of the Beholder, and yeah, Dungeon Master. Yeah, man, something like that. I don't know.
You know what I miss? Just speaking of collaboration, is Polycount. Somebody would do a model, and then somebody else would texture it.
Mm-hmm.
And doing collaborations on characters, I think, is almost dead now with the next gen type of workflow. You know, like you don't often hear people like, oh, I want to do the sculpt, and then oh, I want to do the texture.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all the details are already there from the sculpt, so it's not really, you're just kind of finishing it, you know.
Yeah, dude. But you did like the demon, right?
Yeah, I did a few pieces that people have worked on, but I just thought it was awesome having groups of people in the community collaborating and creating new stuff off of the same premise or the same model.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of miss that.
Yeah, totally. I think I feel the same way about like the mod community too. You know, I mean, even like, I mean, now I guess it's like TF2 or like Dota or something like that, right? But yeah, I mean, years ago, right, when it was like modding like Unreal or you know, like Doom 3 or something like that. I don't know, man. I think that was a good time. You know, I mean, unfortunately, like the majority of projects were just like batshit crazy, but
yeah,
you know, I kind of miss the time where you could, you know, do like something simple on like a shooter or something like that, and
totally.
it wasn't this like huge undertaking, you know. Like now, I mean, kind of like you're saying, it's like if you wanted to mod, I mean, whatever, like fucking like Fallout 4 or something like that, and do it for real. I mean, fuck, dude, you're gonna have to put in like a ton of work if you want something to actually look good, you know.
Totally. Yeah, we you know, back in Quake 3, we did a 24-hour Quake 3 challenge where I modeled, UV'd, and textured a character in 24 hours, and I released it to the community, and they did skins in 24 hours, and I had a buddy do the animations and get it into Quake 3 in 24 hours. So we were able to do full character and had like 5 or 6 releasable skins all in 24 hours, which was awesome.
It's crazy. Wow. It's crazy.
But yeah, everything's a time investment now, you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's definitely like exponentially a lot more, right? I mean, even though with like tools that kind of speed up your workflow, like Substance or like Dedo or whatever, man, like the quality bar is like so high that, you know, like to put time into anything that would look, you know, present like, you know, pretty good. Like, it's just, it takes forever, you know?
Yeah.
Those tools are
cool though.
Yeah, I keep hearing
I'm really getting into Substance now. It's awesome.
Everyone keeps saying that, you know, if you put in the time, which is true, you get really cool results, and it just feels worth it. But it's tough. I feel like if you're not like a seasoned veteran and you haven't been in the industry for a long time, and even like a student or even like mid-level artist, it's tough because the pipeline keeps getting longer and longer and longer, and then there's more competing programs and tools to be more useful. And if you're just even trying to like catch up to where the bar is set, like that's already so long. One character can take anywhere from a month to like 3 months, maybe even 4 or 5, and it's just a long time. It's kind of overwhelming, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think like doing at least as like far as like doing like your own project, right? Like, I mean, if you were to like, you know, whatever, make a game or like make a mod or something, and you want it to look like what, you know, the bar quote unquote is now, like everything, not even just like character art itself is higher. It's like you have to know all the other shit too. It's like you have to know how to light something in real time and have it not look bad, and like then you have to like rig something and then animate something, and and all that, you know. I mean, there's like ways around it, but yeah, I mean, it's like it's pretty much impossible to do it like all on your own. It's like you need basically like a small, you know, army basically to get something going. I mean, I think.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, dude.
I was gonna say the one exciting thing about that, at least for me, we our company has been trying to focus on stylized characters.
Mm-hmm.
We feel like that you could go to China to get a workforce to do your realistic characters and stuff, because it would probably take that in order to get that stuff done in a reasonable amount of time. But for us, we could focus on more stylized stuff, and are more and more with the advance of technology and how long it takes to make assets. I think more and more games are starting to turn to more of a stylized approach in order to cut costs and try to get the development time down, and which is awesome for us because that's what we want to do is stylized characters. You know?
Yeah, dude. I think I've ranted to I think both Troy and Layna about this like many times, but I wish that people with money also saw that. You know what I mean? Like at least for, you know, in my experience, a lot of, other than, you know, like League of Legends or like WoW or something like that, but, you know, a lot of the games that are getting a ton of money aren't, you know, crazy stylized games, right? I mean, like The Witcher would be stylized, but, you know, it's still got crazy rendering, crazy like technology going on, you know. And then like when you have, you know, I'm definitely not gonna shit talk like publishers or anything, but, you know, I mean, I think it's pretty common for them to look at something like Uncharted, you know, and be like, that's photoreal, even though it's not, but like be like, that's photoreal, and like everything should be like photoreal, you know, and they like push you in that direction with, you know, this huge undertaking, right, which is going to be millions and millions and millions of dollars, right, and like crazy budget to hit that bar, and then that means like your break even, you know, is even higher, so you're gonna end up selling all these games. I don't know. I think I'm kind of ranting now, but you know, I guess like my point is that like I wish stylized games was given as much like funding, or people bought as much games like stylized games as seemingly realistic ones. You know,
Right.
I think it's just like this weird problem that keeps just like eating itself. You know, and it's like, man, these fucking games are super expensive, right? It's like a $80 million project, but then like people kind of buy it. It's like, yeah, but fuck, man, it takes like so much, right? And then there's like outliers like League of Legends, or like World of Warcraft, or whatever, right? But you know, I don't know.
I think at the end of the day, a fun game is a fun game, and I think that realistic appeal to more mass market people who don't really understand art, maybe. But you could accomplish a lot more if you choose a style that works within your development cycle.
Yeah, totally.
You know, like so instead of it having, you know, trying to make every leaf look like a real leaf, you know, like you can make a big giant cluster look like a big stylized set of leaves. You know, that type of thing.
Yeah, totally. It's weird thinking about like standards. You know what I mean? Because I think like when all of us were playing games in our you know, formative years or whatever, right? Like none of them looked good, right? I mean, they looked good at the time comparatively, but it's not like any of them ever would have been considered photoreal ever. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way you're like running around like fucking Wolfenstein 3D or something, and you're like, whoa, man! It's like that. It's like looking at a photo, you know? Or, I mean, obviously like fucking Zelda and Super Mario and stuff, right? But I don't know. I feel like like, I don't know. I guess before you were able to achieve near realism, people are just more accepting, you know? Like this is like, oh, that's a game, you know? That's what video games are, you know? And now it's like near filmic expectations, you know?
Right.
I don't know. It's weird.
It feels like there's been an epic shift. Like I feel like, because a prime example, at least for me, was Final Fantasy VII. Playing it last year, I was more immersed in that game than I had been in any new incoming game for years, man. Dude, we all know what the graphics of Final Fantasy VII looks like. It was definitely not photoreal, but it was amazing, and I think that's why games back then had heart and soul, because it wasn't so focused, like magnified on what the art was. It was, are you immersed? Are the characters fantastic? What is the story? What is the world? And now it seems like these days that there's so much budget just for how realistic and how amazing can we make this art, but then the story and the characters and the purpose of the game is kind of lost.
Yeah, totally. I guess speaking of that, and speaking of horror games, like, did you guys play Until Dawn?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the game I played, right? With all the like teeny bopper. Dude, yeah, that game was great. I really liked it.
Dude, I could not get into this at all, and I felt like I was stuck in a cabin in the woods with a group of millennials that I didn't care if they lived or died. You know? It's like I'm their dad, and I'm stuck with them listening to like fucking Justin Bieber or some shit. You know? It's like I just don't want this shit. But it's just so weird.
So good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it looked great, but I mean, it's all like, I mean, it's like digital double and like really controlled. But yeah, man, I don't know. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I still gotta beat it. I'm like a few hours in. Yeah, but it's just so weird. 'Cause like the premise for me is exactly what I would want. You know, it's like like Friday the 13th. Sounds good. You know. I don't know. I guess that's where I'll leave that.
Short. It's quite short, by the way. You could beat it in one night, especially because you don't take too much time giving a shit about what the hell you're gonna, what button you're gonna press in time. The game ends up ending, and it's kind of whatever. I think I spent most of my time in the pause menu, just kind of looking around the character.
Oh yeah.
I think that was the most memorable.
I'll meet you there. I mean, out of all the games I've ever played, I think it's probably the best pause menu I've ever seen.
10 points to the pause menu.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I almost think that like and I think I've read this about the latest Tomb Raider too. That like the realism, it was almost too distracting for me to actually enjoy it, right? Because I mean, I guess like part of me's playing it as a gamer and part of me's playing it as like a developer, right? And like I'm playing it, I'm like, fuck, it's the guy from like Mr. Robot, and I couldn't like not see the real world guy like awkwardly like talking to me and stuff, and I couldn't do it. And like the therapist is the guy from like Seinfeld and stuff, so it's like I don't know, man, I just couldn't do it. But then like Laura, like Crystal, they did a video, or they wrote like an article or something like that about how they like purposely went away from the digital double version so that it wasn't that distracting, right? So that it was like, you know, a game character or like a made up character, you know, so that like that uncanny valley problem wasn't necessarily there, you know. But I think like Until, oh sorry.
No, go on.
I was gonna say I think like Until Dawn, which I might end up picking up, I don't know, but or re-picking up again. But I think it's like the perfect example of like uncanny valley for me. It's like so good looking and like so close, but so weird because it's not real life, you know. And yeah, it's just really distracting for me.
I don't know. The games have always just been like a break from reality for me, and so that's what I really dig about the fact you can make, you know, when you can make anything you want to make, why remake something that's realistic? You know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
That's just kind of where the artist in me, the former comic book artist in me wanted. I want to see dynamic, you know, crazy stuff. I don't want to just see another, you know, normal dude. You know?
Yeah, totally.
Troy and I were having this discussion not too long ago, you know, bringing up Tomb Raider, and it's a great game for what it is today, but Lara Croft has and always will be the most ridiculous stylized character that can jump off cliffs and shoot tigers and fight dinosaurs and demons. You know what I mean? That's the epicness of what that game was, and grow up with it as a child, and then it's turned into she's like a relatable woman
Hmm.
now, like a human, and it takes away that treasure and love for something that is completely unrealistic and should have been. So I'm totally in agreement with you that you go to games as an escape. So for me personally, to go to a game and for it to be real, it's like, I don't know, you might as well like go watch a movie or something.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's just not the
Although
same.
in real life, I'm not a Tomb Raider, so it is a little bit of an escape still, right?
Yeah, slightly.
Are you
It's
are you
just all
sure? I
like
mean, I was always imagined you as this like Indiana Jones type character, you know? Just you get done like making a character for Diablo 3, you get your whip and just fly to fucking I don't know Syria for like a few weeks. Gonna go look for some ancient relics.
That's what I'm doing right after this.
I assume so. um, so is there like any project that you've worked on, like in your, like in your career, that you would like now, like knowing what you know now, like that you could, if you could somehow, like OMNOM Workshop, like fucking expands to like a ton of different people, and you get funding to pick up your own license, and you can you develop like your own game in house. Is there any game that you've worked on in the past that you would revive to do it again, or like take another swing?
Yeah, man, Darksiders is easily the
Yeah.
uh, the most fun I've had on a project. I mean, it had everything going for it. I mentioned that I had a comic book past. Like Joe Mad was one of the guys that I looked up to,
Hmm.
and the opportunity to go work with him on that project was phenomenal. And being able to work in a comic book style for a game was really really cool. I thought that based on discussions with Joe and Dave Adams and the guys who were running that project, what their plans for the future of that project was really really cool, and it was just a shame that that had to stop.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. Are you involved at all with Battle Chasers?
Yeah, we did the most of the characters in the Kickstarter, and then we're still doing a few characters for them.
Yeah. Did you guys do? Is it Calibretto?
Yep, we worked on
Nice.
Calibretto.
Okay, that's awesome. I've like there. So also a comic book nerd. But I've started going like digital, and I don't have a lot of like hard copy anymore.
Yeah,
And there's like a few like storylines that I've kept hard copy like over the years, and it's like most of it's Marvel, but then there's Battle Chasers, and it's like the one, like this thing that's all wrapped up and like nice in my on my bookshelf or whatever. So as soon as that like got announced, I'm like day one fucking kickstart backing that.
yeah, it was awesome to be able to work on those characters. The characters that I used to read, like finally actually getting my hands on being able to work on them was awesome. And it's still really cool, and I can't wait to see how that project ends up.
Yeah, dude. I hope it does really well. I mean, yeah.
It's funny, those guys. So we had, I mentioned we started with 3 people. Well, we grew to 5 people, and we were in this one little small one-room office, and it was obviously too big, so we had to move out. Well, Joe started his company around that time, and so we were the landlords of Joe's company, Airship
Oh, wow.
Syndicate, for like 6 months or something. They were in
Nice.
our office.
Were you like a total hard ass about it?
No, not at all.
I don't know, man. I think like all the landlords I've ever had have been assholes, so I just kind of assume that like you kind of have to be. You know what I mean? Like you just you start like riding them about like not making too much noise and shit, paying on time.
No, nothing like that.
Was it like maybe a Three's Company kind of situation where like You guys are like work.
That was Mr. Roker.
Yeah, you tie like your ascot around your neck and just walk in on Joe Mad doing poorly timed things.
And I will say Joe is his rough like little doodles he does are some of the best things I've ever seen in my life. Like he knows how to make a character look awesome no matter what. It's awesome.
Dude, yeah, he's one of my favorites, man. I mean, he's got he's done my favorite Spider-Man and my favorite Wolverine too.
Yeah,
both are amazing. And I mean, the Darksider stuff and like Dungeon Runners and like Battle Chasers is just like a crazy big like influence on me.
Yeah, what I love about the Battle Chasers project is it's hand painted textures.
Mm-hmm.
I still love doing that stuff when I can.
Oh yeah. Is it like no I mean, is it like fully like old school, or are you guys do they do like normal maps and?
No, like, it's all old school, just model and texture.
Just Fulbright.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, man, it looks fun. I mean,
Really
it looks fun for sure.
Yeah, I think everybody backed that.
I did.
Same, dude. It's like Battle Chasers. Oh shit!
Yeah. Dude,
get in on that.
I didn't even look at like any of the videos or anything. I'm just like, yep, Battle Chasers, and then I'm like, oh, it's a game. It's a game. Awesome. Yeah, totally. I'll play that. Like anything Battle Chasers. It's like, yeah, fuck. I'm in, for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man. I mean, we've had you for like an hour and a half now. I don't want to keep you from you know making tomb raiding or
tomb raiding.
or omnoming. So you know, I mean, unless you guys had any like questions or things you wanted to bring up, I mean, probably.
What about you, Mr. Jon Troy Nichols?
You've been pretty quiet.
Yeah.
No, dude, I've just been absorbing everything that was being said. No, I kind of don't, man. I mean, everything that we've kind of talked about is kind of stuff that I was wondering as well. And you even brought up like the whole 3D printing thing, because that was actually something I was going to ask, man. I was like, so when are the Bobo toys happening? But you kind of...
I ordered a Form 2 last month, and you know, when they announced that there's integration with ZBrush, I was like, fine, that's it. That put it over the top. I want to buy it. So I bought it, and I even paid for 3-day delivery on it.
Oh, wow.
And if 5 days later, I messaged them like, hey, it's not here. And then they revealed that, oh, there's a 12-week processing.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So, and a lot of people didn't know about that. Like Josh Singh ordered one, and a guy at Riot I know ordered one, and we're all having to wait 12 weeks.
Fuck, dude.
Oh, man.
I want to make stuff now.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you can like sculpt things for like 3 months and just have this giant backlog, you know?
Yeah, we're going to be making some nomers. So we have these little monsters that we've there's an artist concept artist named Avery Coleman. He did a lot of the concepts on Darksiders, and he did some concept work at Riot. But he's a freelance artist, and he doesn't work for us, but he works here at the studio. He just comes up and hangs out with us.
Oh, cool.
And so he's designed like several of these little monsters for us for a project that we'll do someday. But they may end up being our first little toys that we try to put together and sell or something.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'll be keeping my eye out for sure.
Yeah, man. No doubt. Get that
Cool.
OMNOM Toy Store tab going on your website.
Yeah,
dude.
that'd be cool.
Cool, man. Well, I think that's probably it, huh?
I don't have anything else.
All right. Last chance to throw Josh Singh under the bus.
I think that Josh Singh is one of the most handsome guys I've ever met.
Yeah.
He will tell you. He will tell you so.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think, man, if we had Josh here as well, I think I'd have my top three, like right in one podcast.
Josh, I've kind of mentioned it about wanting people around me that can push me. Like Josh is a great example. Like I got him in over at Iron Lore, and then when I went over to 38 Studios, I wanted him to come over there. He came over there, and when we went to Visual, I wanted him to come over there. He's one of those guys that he's a machine. Like he does stuff really really fast. I'm more of a methodical, like measure twice, cut once type of guy, but he just goes right at it. And I'm trying to get a little bit better about that too. And he's one of those guys that'll push you. So.
Cool.
And it's fun to replace his character models with stuff.
Cool, man. All right. Well, man, this has been awesome, man. It's been great to finally talk to you, not harassing you when I am.
Yes, it's great talking to you guys too.
All right. Well, take it easy, guys. Thanks for coming along, Bobo.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure, man. Take it easy, guys.
Bye.
See you guys.
See yous.